Hello everyone, Konstantin Skamelian here. I'm a full stack developer, and in this video series I'm working on my small progressive web application written in TypeScript and Solid.js. And today's video I'd like to start from one important thing. I would like to thank you all my subscribers for your feedback according to my video quality, sound quality, the approach I'm giving tutorials, etc. Thank you very much. I've received a lot of nice and useful comments. I'm going to apply some of them. And yeah, let me continue with agenda. From now on, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do during the tutorials. And today I'm going to improve root selector styles, some default styles for HTML element applied to HTML element. I'd like to minify the main HTML template to save some space to reduce the amount of information every user loads. And also I'm going to make it possible to receive background notifications through Firebase messaging, cloud messaging, and also through my service worker, which is going to be a part of my application. I already have one service worker. It serves its purpose of caching the application assets, styles, images, and HTML. And now another service worker, and it's possible to have many. Another service worker will be responsible for receiving background notifications, sort of push notifications from Firebase to my front-end web application. So let me start from switching to my code editor, Visual Studio Code, and I will show you index.html, which includes some styles, some icons, etc. And I also have, which I'm going to actually minify. In other words, remove blank spaces, remove unnecessary tabulation and all this stuff. And also I have styles here, index CSS, the main styles of which are applicable to the main template, to the main application template layout, I would say. So here we have some default styles which may not be correct. So the background color, for instance, should be the same as the color of my application component background. Just a second, I'm going to open it and show you. So you see this background color here applied to the moon component. And I'm going to actually, and also as I showed you here, we have default styles for HTML body, root, and they use this color, background color here, which is different. So I'm going to first update the color which is applied to the first element, HTML element, through root element. Normally it is used for setting some CSS variables. I don't yet have any CSS variables. It's probably a good idea to have some, but it's not planned for this video. So let me just use the same settings which we apply here, and yeah, let's make it close to each other. And also the only theme I have is dark theme, so I'm going to temporarily remove the light theme here. Maybe I would later add some light theme for my application, but for now it's not necessary. So let's set here just one theme, dark theme, and it should be enough. The rest is more or less good, so I'm gonna keep the same fonts here set, and yeah, and this font settings also good enough to keep here. So yes, let me continue with the minification of the index.html template. So I will just show you how it looks after building, after application building. We have dist folder when actually contains files and assets after the application build. So if we open this file here, resulting file here, you see it's minified because I've already experimented with minification. Now I'm gonna remove it and build the application again, so you see its default styles. Wait, correct myself. Yes. Let's wait for a few seconds for it to be generated and bundled. And now I'm going to open the index.html. Yeah, and you see that it's not minified. It has all the blank spaces, tabulation, and new lines, which I want to get rid of. So I'm going to install a plugin for Vite bundler, which is easy to use. This good out of the box and doesn't require a lot of configuration. It's called vite-plugin-minify. Let me install it. Vite-plugin-minify. While it's installing, I'm going to switch to my browser and find the documentation for using it. Let's open it on npm.js. Yeah, you see it's very easy to use. Vite-minify plugin, adding to plugins, and that's it. Which is what I want to have actually. So I'm going to add to my vite config this import command. Let me add it to the top of the file and add it to the list of enabled plugins here. I'm going to save the file to actually reformat it. Yes, it's actually reformatted, and they see that I'm gonna keep this comment here just for reference. Config details are here just for my own reference. Yeah, so if I need to configure the minify plugin, I can refer to this page because it actually uses HTML minifier terser under the hood. But we don't care much. We just install it, and I'm going to run the build command again so we could see the difference. Yep, let me open index.html again, and you see it's minified. I'm gonna run the application to check if it's working, if everything is good enough, and I'm gonna run it through vite preview because the preview command actually runs the application from the dist folder. You see that the application is open. The application is open, and I'm going to go to the server worker page here, and reload the application again so that server worker is updated, and they see the updated version of the application. You see that it's working. I can open the source code and take a look inside. You see that the source code minified, and this is what I wanted to achieve actually. So they are good. Let's come back to our agenda. You see that I've cleaned up root styles, minified HTML, and the next step and the next task for this particular tutorial is to make it possible to receive background notifications from Firebase. Firebase is a Google is a set of Google services. It's originally was an external company, but then Google acquired it and made it their own. So and it has a lot of services which are particularly useful for serverless applications, and not only it has Firebase Firestore, the database. It has Firebase Cloud Messaging service for push notifications, which I'm actually going to use for this particular application. So let me open Firebase console first and create an application there. This is the documentation, and I'm going to go to console first because I need a new application with new application tokens and API keys, etc. Let me call this application test push 2 because I already had some experiments here. Okay, it asks me if I want to enable some statistics. It's actually useful, Google Analytics statistics. I'm going to make to keep it enabled. I'm not going to use it during this particular tutorial, but maybe later it will be useful for me to. Let's see. For now, I'm going to use the default settings. Google Analytics account. I don't want to create a Google Analytics account. Let me maybe enable this Google Analytics service later on, then when I need it actually. For now, I'm gonna skip it actually. Yeah, I didn't know that I need a new Google Analytics account, etc. It would take a lot of time to do. I will probably come back to it later if I need it. Let's create a project, just a simple project without Google Analytics enabled. Let's give it a few seconds to create a project and infrastructure for it. Then we are going to enable necessary services. In particular, Firebase has a few services, as I mentioned, and one particular necessary service is called Firebase Cloud Messaging. You see the all products here, and I'm going to scroll down a little and choose Cloud Messaging in the list. When I choose it, it actually added messaging menu item here. So and now Google Analytics, it's just me enabling Google Analytics, not this time, thank you. And okay, dynamic links, yeah, I'm gonna keep it as is probably. Let me switch to the documentation first. Before seeing documentation, it actually asks me to register an application. I'm going to register a test application. Test. At this particular point, I don't need Firebase hosting for this because Firebase also has its own hosting, but I'm hosting my application on Vercel, so I don't need it yet. Maybe later. For now, I'm good. So I'm not going to enable Firebase hosting for my application here. Let's give it a few seconds to register my new application here. And now it actually gives me some instructions how to install necessary components, and also gives me some configuration for my application, initial configuration, some settings, API key, app ID, etc. So I'm going to copy npm install Firebase. I actually remember the command, but yeah, let's save time and just install it. And yep, actually you see vite-plugin-minify was installed to the main dependencies, the production dependencies. What if we move this vite-plugin-minify to the dev dependencies? I think it would be better, because we actually use minification for one time before using the application in production. So we use it for bundling, we use it for building assets, we're using for minifying the main HTML template. So it would be a good idea to have it in dev dependencies. Yeah, now you see Firebase is library Firebase SDK has been installed, and now I can move this vite-plugin-minify to the dev dependencies. Let me just npm install it again for the application to sort this change, to kind of apply this change. So I'm gonna close this and this. Now we have Firebase SDK installed, and we can actually continue integrating Firebase into our application. We have core folder here. I'm going to create a Firebase folder here in the core folder, and create a new file, init.js, and put this code, which is suggested and provided by Firebase, into this file. Ideally, I need to get these API keys, etc., from some application configuration, but let me improve the application a bit later. The refactor it, move some constants to configuration files, etc. For now, it's okay to have it hard-coded here. I'm gonna export the app from this file, saved file, and now I'm actually ready to continue. So we have messaging service enabled. Let it load this particular section of the application configuration. For some reason it's a little bit slow. Okay, let it load the page. I'm gonna open Firebase Cloud Messaging configuration. I have this particular page in history, but you can actually find it documentation, FCM, Firebase Cloud Messaging, and the section is web and receiving messages. Each particular section is what we need. We actually need to follow these instructions to receive messages from Firebase server through a separate service worker file, service worker script. So it actually we need a section named handle messages when your web app is in the background. Let me come back to my presentation here, a short presentation, and explain the entire concept to you. Background notifications with service worker and Firebase. So you can actually receive notifications from Firebase or from any other service, messaging service. You can receive notifications when your user is actually using the application. When the application is active, it's called receiving notifications in foreground when your application is active. And when your application is working in the how to say, in the background, you can receive notifications as well. And the thing which is responsible to background notifications receiving is actually service worker. I'm going to focus today on the background notifications only, but still we have this possibility to receive notifications while the application is active and used by the user. Let's leave it for a later point. And what does it take to receive notifications from Firebase in particular here, background notifications in particular? So user needs actually allow browser to show them the notifications, right? So they give permission explicitly that they want to receive some notifications from this particular application. And also for the Firebase service or any other backend push notification service, the backend part needs to know your user kind of token or receiver ID, I would call it. So every user has its receiver ID, which we need to supply to the backend service, so it actually knows where to send their messages, right? When they know the unique token ID of this particular user, they will send notifications directly to them, right? And Firebase itself also, as I mentioned just recently, that the Firebase service needs to know this receiver ID, this token, to send notifications. And also Firebase needs to have service worker as a special service worker to be configured and installed inside your application. So we are going to actually create this Firebase service worker and configure it in a particular way, which actually described here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. The configuration looks very similar to what we've done here in this init.ts, but actually it uses direct links to direct URLs to Firebase Firebase scripts, because for the context of this particular service worker, it cannot load any stuff from your local folder. Actually, I guess it can load some stuff, but it's better for us and it's easier for us if we just use remote versions of the Firebase client libraries. So let me use it and create a specific service worker file. It should be called, let me find the name for the service worker file, Firebase Messaging SW.js. And it requires you having this Firebase messaging SW.js file here inside public to be supplied from the root of your application. So I will just copy the content. Sorry, need to copy it again because scroll down. Yes, this is what they need actually. You see these configuration details here. I will just copy it from init. Why I'm having two files with the same configuration? Because actually we need our service worker to connect to Firebase, and we need also front-end foreground scripts to be able to connect to the Firebase, to request the token which is going to be used as an address to receive messages from Firebase, right? That's why they have the settings twice. Of course, and ideally it should be optimized the way that everything should be stored in some configuration files, and we would just at least replace placeholders here. But for now, for the purpose of this demonstration, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to keep the copies of the configuration here and there in two places, right? We will improve it later. For now, it's okay. Okay, what else here? And one thing also we need to implement here is to make it possible to receive background notifications from Firebase through service worker, from service worker script. So I'm going to paste this code here, and what I'm going to do here also, I'm going to use payload. I know that payload actually contains notification title and notification body, so I'm going to just use it from there if it's set, because if it's not set, the default placeholder, the default text, the default message is going to be used. And I'm going to make the default message something like let me message title something like, okay, let me not reinvent a wheel here and keep it as this. Background message title, it's good enough. I'm going to replace this icon with the icon of my application. All icons are stored in public img folder here. So I'm going to just not rename actually, but copy the name of the file, and also but type here the img folder. img Android ROM should actually point to this particular image file, which is going to be used as an icon for a background message received. So I'm going to save this file. Some reformatting happened, that's okay. And we have some console log here for debug purposes, that's okay. So we have this Firebase Messaging sw.js file ready to be used. That's okay, that's good. Let's check that it's installed actually and visible by the app. I'm going to open the application, open the developer tools, and see that this Firebase Messaging service worker is here actually. It's visible, it's noticeable, which is good, which is what they wanted to achieve actually. Now, this particular user needs to allow receiving the background notifications from this particular application. So I'm going to find the code which is necessary for receiving applications, and let me just take a look at the code which is necessary for receiving applications. Okay, we have it here, perfect. I'm going to create a separate file in the Firebase folder. Let's call it registration ts. Okay. I'm going to copy this code, close the brackets. Okay, fine, request permission. And also, one more thing I need to do here is after receiving the permission from the user, we need to actually obtain the token, which is going to be used as unique address of this particular user, this particular application installed in the user's browser. So let me use it this way. Get token. Okay, I need to export this function. Request permission. Request user permission, which is good. Yeah, and this particular function is not visible for some reason, which is okay. I'm going to export it manually then. Import, actually, not export. Token from Firebase. Firebase messaging. Yeah, something like this. And you see the one more token here. And also we need to supply the messaging. Let me just finish the configuration with one more thing. I'm going to create a messaging file, which is going to use the init file. Import app from init. Yep, because init actually exports application in its initialized Firebase applications with all the configuration applied. Now we need to add some more configuration for messaging service for particular stuff, right? So get messaging, how is it called? Give me a second, I'm gonna find some sample file here and use a particular code to configure messaging. Firebase messaging, get token, that's good. Initialize application, you see Firebase config here, get messaging. Yeah, this is what I needed, as I assumed, but I'm gonna do it a bit differently. For some reason the includes the auto importing doesn't work. That's okay, that's fine. I will import it manually. Sometimes it breaks, but yeah. Firebase messaging, yeah, it should be fine. Export default messaging. Yep, and also I need to supply the initialized Firebase application to the get messaging function here. So now we can actually and application is a default export here, so yeah, from the init file. So now we can actually use this messaging already pre-configured messaging service from the registration file. I'm going to import it. Yeah, it's already imported automatically. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. That's fine. It's open source. Just need to reformat the code a little bit. Give me a second. Actually, for some reason it doesn't format the code, but yeah, that's okay. Now you see that if the permission is given by the user, we say notification permission granted, but what if not? If not, I'm going to use else statement here and print some warning message to the console. For now it's okay to have some warnings in the console, but later we will need to implement some better error reporting. We will get to that point. That's okay for now. Not registration given. I'm going to warn the user, and I'm going to use console error in case of an error, right? Is closer to what we need. And here it says send the token to your server and update the UI if necessary. Okay, I'm going to add to do statement here because we will need to do it, but later. For now it's okay just to console log the received token, the current token. So we are going to print it to the console and use to send test messages. So of course this code can be improved with async statements, etc., but now it's not the purpose of this particular tutorial. We will refactor it later if we need it. One thing we definitely need to do here is let me just close the brackets when one of the brackets is not closed, and I'm going to do it now to fix the code problem here. And the reason why it didn't it wasn't formatted is exactly because we had some syntax issues here. You see this your public vite key here. It's one more key which is necessary for actually communicating with the Firebase backend. So we, with every request, get token request, we need to send this vite key. So I'm going to obtain this vite key from my application configuration. Let me just reload this page because yeah, it got stuck for some reason. And this vite server key can be found here in project settings. You see the Cloud Messaging tab here. I'm going to scroll down a little, and I can actually generate key pair here. What I will need, just public key here, not a private one. Web push certificates it's called, right? I will reload the page because I need to copy this key and it does not let me do it for some reason. Okay, because it should be longer actually. Let me just open the developer console and just copy it from here. For some reason at UI it's UI bug or something. Yeah, I'm gonna copy this text and use it because you know for some reason it's caught here. It's a UI issue here, and yeah, I'm a developer, I can get rid of it by just using developer console. I'm going to create a new config variable and set this vite key and it's const, and I will call it public vite key. Okay. Insert this long string and save the file. We should be good, and from here I'm going to use the variable public vite key, which is good. I think we are more or less ready to request permissions from the user. And yeah, let me just close the original app and just reload the application here and see what we have in the console. service worker updated, and yeah. Oh, one thing I forgot to call this request permission function and expect it to display the permission request, but yeah, I'm going to use this function and call it from the main application component. The main application component is located in the app.tsx, and I only need to request permissions once on page load. I will put it on inside the onMount handler, onMount hook, and request the and import the file here. Good. So now I can just reload the page, update. Normally, I actually given this application notification permissions already, but by default, this notification checkbox here, oh, how to say, yeah, checkbox. I would say it to checkbox. It's disabled by default. So when you request permissions, it asks user to allow it. Let's imagine user allowed it, and yeah, you need to reload the page. You reloaded the page, let's assume. Now, yeah, some issues here, maybe because I requested the token many times already. Let me just reload the page. And you see this particular user token or application token, how to say, installed application ID or token, whatever. We can copy it and actually send an application through Firebase console. Firebase console has let me reload the page. For some reason it doesn't react to page resizing event, so that's okay. Let me just send a test message through the Firebase console. Create your first campaign. I choose Firebase notification messages. And now I can enter some details of this particular message here, test message 1, and you see a visual editor here, not actual visual editor, but the representation of how this particular message is going to look when it's received. So test body 1. And you see the button send test message. Let's try it. Let's see what happens actually. And here, when you press test message, it asks you to enter this registration token, and we just obtained it from here, right? It's already in my buffer. I will just enter it and check that I'm going to send a test message, my test message, to this particular user or application token. Let's press test. Yeah, you see that the message is received. It has title test message, it has test body, and when I click it, I'm redirected to the application, which is what I wanted to achieve, right? So now my application can actually receive messages from Firebase. It's not enough for ready-to-use application, because user needs to be able to kind of subscribe to a particular kind of messages from the backend, and we need a backend part which can actually send these messages by some regular procedures, some cron script, which would actually check for moon dates and send a notification message one day before new or full moon day, so users could actually prepare for that day. For instance, if they are going to have a day off for this particular day, I mean, Ashtanga Vinyasa practitioners have day offs on new and full moon days, so they need to be prepared. So yeah, we need to inform them about this particular days coming, even if they are not opening the application. That's why I've just implemented background approach. It's possible to actually receive messages in the foreground if user actually keeping the application open, but it's not the case in our particular situation, because users normally don't spend much time inside the application, because there are not many things to look at, etc. So they just open it once and close it almost immediately. So they get information and forget about the application, but still they need to receive a message one day before the before the new or full moon day. So we are going to continue developing this application, and next time